So my name is Jeremy.
Volám sa Jeremy.
I am married with 5 children.
Takže som ženatý a mám 5 detí.
And Dodo asked me if I would speak today.
Dodo ma poprosil, či dneska budem hovoriť.
My gift is not really preaching.
Môj dar nie je v skutočnosti kázať.
But I told him if I could not teach from the word but share our story, then I would be happy to.
Takže poprosil som ho, že či nemusím kázať akože z Biblie, ale že radšej by som povedal nejaký príbeh, takže bol by som rád, keby som to mohol povedať.
So we just returned to Slovakia from Thailand.
Takže práve sme sa vrátili na Slovensko z Thajska.
And I want to tell you our story about living in Thailand.
Takže chcel by som vám povedať náš príbeh, ako sme tam žili.
But first I will give you a little bit of background of who I am and my family.
Najprv vám dám trochu také pozadie, že kto som a kto je moja rodina.
So I first came to Slovakia in 2004.
Prvýkrát som prišiel na Slovensku v roku 2004.
Well, first I want to say I grew up in a church.
Takže najprv chcem povedať, že som vyrastal v zbore.
I accepted, but I was not a believer.
Ale nebol som veriaci.
I accepted Jesus at university.
Prijal som Pána Ježiša do svojho života až na vysokej škole.
A guy knocked on my door and shared his faith with me.
Jeden chlapík zaklopal na moje dvere a zdieľal so mnou svoju vieru.
And I did not accept and start walking with Jesus right then.
A hneď som to prijal, ani hneď som začal kráčať s Pánom Ježišom.
It took me 2 years.
Asi 2 roky mi to trvalo, kým sa to stalo.
Of being in a Bible study with them.
Chodil som na také biblické štúdia s nimi.
But I eventually wanted to walk with Jesus.
Ale nakoniec som začal kráčať s Ježišom.
And I saw my need for him.
A videl som, že ho potrebujem.
And at the end of my university, they invited me to come to Slovakia.
A na konci môjho štúdia na univerzite ma zavolali, aby som prišiel na Slovensko.
So I came for 2 months.
Prišiel som na 2 mesiace.
It was the first time ever overseas.
Bolo to pre mňa prvýkrát, že som bol za morom, za oceánom.
I am from a small town.
Som z malého mestečka.
And I really never expected to leave my small town.
A nikdy som nečakal, že opustím svoje malé mestečko.
So after returning back to America,
takže keď som sa potom vrátil zo Slovenska naspäť do Ameriky,
I started working in construction.
Začal som pracovať na stavbe.
And then really felt like God was leading me back to do missions here in Slovakia.
A veľmi som cítil, že Pán Boh ma ťahá späť, aby som robil misiu tu na Slovensku.
So I came for 1 year.
Takže som prišiel najprv na 1 rok.
And then they asked me to stay for 1 more. I said okay.
Potom ma poprosili, či nemôžem ešte jeden ostať, tak som povedal OK.
And then I started dating my wife.
A potom som začal chodiť so svojou ženou, terajšou.
And at the same time, I really felt like God was calling me to stay here long term.
A v tom istom čase som cítil, že Pán Boh ma volá, aby som tu ostal dlhšie. Nadlho.
So I really never planned on being a missionary.
Nikdy som neplánoval v skutočnosti byť misionárom.
I really didn't know what a missionary was.
Ani som nevedel, čo znamená byť misionárom.
And so I came back and said, okay, I will stay here long term and work with students here in Košice.
Takže keď som sa tu navrátil na dlhší čas, tak som si povedal, že OK, tak budem tu v Košiciach a budem pracovať so študentmi.
And that was and so I got married.
A tak som sa oženil medzi tým.
And started learning to be a missionary in Slovakia.
A začal som sa učiť, že čo je to byť misionárom na Slovensku.
A lot of times I did not know what I was doing.
Často som nevedel, čo robím.
But we would pray together.
Ale modlili sme sa spolu.
And we would leave our house and go and meet students.
Takže sme odišli zo svojho domu a išli sme sa stretávať so študentmi.
And so I remember walking by Alžbety dom.
Pamätám si, jak som išiel okolo domu svätej Alžbety.
And again thinking, wow, God is so creative.
A myslel som si, wow, Boh je taký kreatívny.
That he brought me here.
Priniesol ma tu.
And so for me, we don't really have many Gothic cathedrals
Hej.
in my hometown.
Akože v jeho rodnom meste ani tam na blízku nemajú nejaké katedrály. Hej.
And so it was just a symbol of God's creativity with my life.
Pre mňa to bol ako symbol Božej kreativity v mojom živote.
And so after being here for a while, I felt like God was calling me somewhere else.
A keď som tu už bol nejakú tú dobu, tak mal som pocit, že Boh ma volá niekde inde, niekam inam.
So, but I did not know where yet.
Ale ešte som nevedel kam.
So we went back to America for 1 year.
Tak sme sa vrátili naspäť do Ameriky na 1 rok.
And we decided that we would go, or most likely we would go to Asheville, North Carolina.
Takže sme sa rozhodli, že pôjdeme do Thajsku?
Asheville, it's a city.
Asheville. Okay, že pôjdu do Asheville, do Severnej Karolíny.
To again work with students.
Opäť pracovať so študentmi.
But I had a phone call with a guy who was familiar with this ministry.
A mal som rozhovor s jedným, alebo telefonický rozhovor s jedným chlapíkom, ktorý poznal tú prácu, tú službu.
And so I talked to him about this ministry.
Tak som mu rozprával o svojej službe.
And then at the end of the call I asked him what he did in ministry.
Na konci telefonátu som sa ho spýtal, že čo on robí v službe.
And he was in Thailand.
A on bol v Thajsku.
And he told me briefly about working with the Jesus Film Project.
A tak ako z rýchlika mi povedal, že tam pracuje, ako tam pracuje na projekte filmu Ježiš.
And I thought, wow, that was really interesting what he does.
A som si povedal, wow, že to je naozaj zaujímavé, že čo on robí.
And I had a desire since becoming a believer to be able to share the gospel to unreached people groups.
Mm-hmm. Takže odkedy som sa stal veriacim, tak som mal takú túžbu zdieľať evanjelium s ľuďmi, ktorí sa nevedia dostať k evanjeliu.
So after that phone call, I walked back into the living room with my wife.
Takže po tom telefonáte som išiel do obývačky so svojou ženou.
And I said, what about moving to Thailand?
A povedal som, že čo keby sme sa presťahovali do Thajska?
And she was like, maybe.
Ona povedala, možno.
And so, but it was a really big step for us.
Ale pre nás to by bol veľký krok.
A really big step of faith.
Naozaj veľký krok viery.
And so we went.
A tak sme šli.
I don't really consider myself a person of big faith.
Ja seba nehodnotím ako osobu veľkej viery.
But I like to have fun.
Ale mám rád zábavu.
And I really like adventure.
A mám naozaj rád dobrodružstvo.
And I know God put these things inside of me.
A viem, že Boh dal tieto veci do mňa.
And so when he called me to Slovakia and to marry a Slovak girl,
takže keď ma Boh zavolal na Slovensko, zobrať si Slovenku za ženu,
or to move to Thailand,
alebo sa presťahovať do Thajska,
I feel like I didn't have very much big faith, but I do trust God.
Mm-hmm. Cítil som, že nemám veľkú vieru, ale že dôverujem Bohu.
And I see him leading me.
Že vidím ho, ako ma vedie.
And so we went to Thailand.
Tak sme išli do toho Thajska.
And so I worked with a group called the Jesus Film Project.
Takže pracoval som so skupinou, ktorá sa volá projekt Film Ježiš.
It's a really old movie.
Je to naozaj veľmi starý film.
It's not a very good movie.
Nie je to až taký dobrý film.
But it is a good movie in that it's the life of Jesus.
Ale je dobrý v tom, že je tam prezentovaný život Ježiša.
It's basically the book of Luke.
Je to vlastne založené na knihe Lukáša, na evanjeliu podľa Lukáša.
And so my job was to meet with people in Thailand and Cambodia and Laos.
Takže mojou úlohou bolo stretávať sa s ľuďmi z Laosu, Kambodže a z Thajska.
I would meet with missionaries and pastors.
Stretal som sa s misionármi a s pastormi.
These missionaries and pastors were in some people group, some language group.
Títo misionári a pastori boli v nejakej misijnej skupine alebo v nejakej jazykovej skupine.
And they were trying to obviously share the gospel with this people group.
A oni sa snažili v tejto skupine šíriť evanjelium.
and their culture is called an oral culture.
Aha. Že ich kultúra je taká ústna.
They don't
Kultúra,
really,
tak sa volá ústna, hej.
they don't read books.
Oni nečítajú knihy.
Some of their languages, they don't have letters. They're not written down yet.
Niektoré ich jazyky nemajú písmená, ešte neboli napísané.
They learn from their grandparents, from stories.
Oni sa učia z príbehov, to, čo hovoria ich starí rodičia.
And so a movie is a really good tool for this kind of culture.
Takže pre takúto kultúru je film veľmi dobrým nástrojom.
Because it is a story.
Lebo je to príbeh.
And the Jesus film is working with people groups with around 50,000 people.
Takže na tomto projekte filmu Ježiš sa to pracuje s takými skupinami a dokopy je to asi 50,000 ľudí.
And which is not very many.
Čo nie je až tak veľa.
And so when this missionary or pastor comes to their village and shows this film,
takže keď prídu títo misionári a pastori do tej svojej dediny a pustia tam tento film,
in their language of course,
samozrejme v tom jazyku, v ktorom rozumejú tí ľudia,
it's most likely the only media they've ever seen in their language.
Je to možno jediné video alebo médium, ktoré videli vo svojom vlastnom jazyku.
And you have to picture like Thailand is very diverse.
A musíte si predstaviť, že Thajsko je veľmi rôznorodé.
Like in the cities they have cinemas and malls.
Akože vo veľkých mestách majú tiež kina a nákupné strediska.
But pretty quick, like 45 minutes outside of town.
Ale len veľmi blízko, 45 minút od takého mesta.
They may live in bamboo huts and with no electricity.
Možno, že tam žijú len bez elektriky a len v takých bambusových chatrčách.
And so when the missionaries show up with this film,
takže keď sa objaví taký misionár s takýmto filmom,
it's a big deal.
Je to veľká vec.
There's not really anything else to do.
Tam nemáte čo iné robiť.
I mean, they have pigs and
majú tam prasiatka.
And they're farmers.
Sú to farmári.
So this is a picture of a man in Myanmar.
Takže toto je obrázok man.
Maybe man or woman.
Človeka v Myanmarsku, či jak sa to povie?
Or Burma.
Burma.
And so we gave him a tablet.
Takže dali sme mu tablet.
And he would go around to different villages and show people.
A on išiel po rôznych takých dedinách a tam ukazoval tento film týmto ľuďom.
And people sometimes accept Christ.
A niekedy tí ľudia prijali Pána Ježiša.
And sometimes it's just a seed planted.
A niekedy bolo len zasiaté to semeno viery.
But he would also follow these people up and try to start small groups and churches.
A on sa opäť vracal k týmto ľuďom a zakladali tam také malé skupiny alebo zbory.
So I want to share about what we learned in Thailand.
Chcem vám ešte ukázať, že čo sme sa naučili v Thajsku.
It was hard.
Bolo to ťažké.
For the first 2 years.
Prvé 2 roky boli veľmi špeciálne ťažké.
It's hard to explain what it's like to live in a new culture.
Je to ťažké vysvetliť, že ako asi vyzerá žiť v novej kultúre.
You feel like a little baby.
Cítiš sa ako malé dieťa.
You don't know how to do things, even basic things.
Neviete, ako robiť veci, aj základné veci.
So even like drinking water.
Len ako piť vodu.
I thought you just drink from the faucet, but no.
Ja som si myslel, že piješ len z kohutíka.
Yeah, you don't do that there.
Že tam sa to nerobí.
The water is dirty, bad.
Tá voda tam je zlá, špinavá.
So everything from drinking water to even breathing air, you have to learn.
Takže cez pitie vody, cez jedenie, cez dýchanie vzduchu, všetko sa musíte naučiť.
There is one time, like 2.5 months in Thailand called smoky season.
Tak asi 2,5 mesiaca v Thajsku taká akože začmudená sezóna.
And the farmers burn all their crops, like they burn their stubble.
Farmári tam pália, ja neviem, nejaké suché veci, nejaké zvyšky.
and it gets really polluted.
A vtedy tam je riadne znečistené ovzdušie.
So polluted that you can stare right at the sun.
Také znečistené, že môžete pozerať rovno do slnka.
And there's so much smoke that it doesn't really hurt your eyes.
A je tam toľko toho dymu, že vôbec vás to nezraní, keď pozeráte do slnka.
And you just think, oh, this is probably not good.
A potom si myslíte, že toto asi nie je veľmi dobré.
And you have to learn to filter your house.
A potom musíte sa naučiť, ako odfiltrovať ten svoj dom od toho.
Okay, but before I share some more harder things, I want to share some fun things.
Takže predtým, ako budem s vami zdieľať nejaké ťažké veci, ktoré sme zažili, tak chcem s vami zdieľať srandovné veci.
God knows our needs.
Pán Boh pozná naše potreby.
And he meets our needs in his time.
A vo svojom čase naplní tieto potreby.
So again, we had a lot of fun in Thailand.
Takže mali sme veľa zábavy v Thajsku.
So I will show you a few pictures and tell you a few stories.
Takže ukážem vám niekoľko fotiek a poviem vám niekoľko príbehov.
So we found these wooden carts one day in the mountains.
Tak našli tieto drevené káry niekde v horách.
They were super fun.
Boli veľmi zábavné.
They would tie them behind the truck and you would get in the back of the truck and they would pull you and the carts up the mountain.
Takže ste si sadli a oni vás vyťahli s týmito karami zapojenými za autom niekde hore na vrch.
And then you had a very bumpy ride down.
A potom ste sa spustili dole. A bolo to veľmi také hrkotajúce.
Over here we had a lot of rice fields.
Tu vidno veľa rýžových polí.
And Dara and I would ride bicycles through these rice fields.
A my s Darou sme išli na bicykli cez tieto rýžové
on the
pole.
road, for sure.
Hej, ale po ceste.
But it was just a very sweet place to meet with God.
Bolo to veľmi také dobré miesto sa stretnúť s Bohom.
This monkey was my friend's monkey.
Táto opica bola opica môjho kamaráta.
They were ex-military missionaries.
Oni boli vojenskí misionári.
And they would go into Burma and do missions there.
Oni chodili do tej Barmy a tam robili misiu.
And so they would take this monkey and he would follow them like a dog, kind of.
Oni si brali túto opicu a ona ich nasledovala, ako keby bola pes.
And one day Olivia got too close to this monkey.
A jedného dňa prišla Olivia, naša dcera, teda jeho dcera, príliš blízko k tej opici.
But he was nice, but kind of crazy.
Bola milá, ale taká trochu šialená.
And he grabbed her sleeve and ripped it off. Her sleeve.
Takže rukav otrhla, hej? Tá opica otrhla Olivii rukav.
And it was a funny story.
A to bolo pre nich sranda.
This is our mode of transportation, our moped.
A takto sa transportovali s mopedom.
And they don't really have seasons in Thailand.
Takže oni nemajú veľmi ročné obdobia v Thajsku.
So this is Christmas time.
Takže toto sú Vianoce.
And we say the seasons are hot and hotter.
Hovoríme, že tam sú obdobia, že je horúco a ešte horúcejšie.
So at Christmas it's hot.
A na Vianoce je horúco.
And so we made snowballs out of paper.
Takže urobili snehové gule z papiera.
And we had a snowball fight.
A mali tento ohadzovačku, hej.
And we just got back from riding bicycles.
A práve sa vrátili z jazdenia na bicykloch.
This is my son picking bananas.
Tu na môj syn zbiera banány.
It's like a concrete mixer / bathtub.
Chápem, že to, v čom pláva, je taká vec na mixovanie betónu, hej, že tam sa dnuka v tom mixuje.
And then we did have a rainy season.
No.
We did, yes.
Takže majú tam ešte obdobie dažďov.
And our front yard would turn into mud.
A ich predná záhradka sa vtedy zmení na blato.
And so, but and it was fun.
A bola to tiež zábava.
We had 2 big mango trees in our front yard.
Mali 2 mangovníky na mango, hej, vpred záhradke.
And so we built a fort in the tree.
Tak tam postavili takú základňu, takú pevnosť.
Okay, one more fun thing.
A ešte jedna zábavná vec.
So there's a tribe called the Aka tribe.
Je tam taký kmeň, ktorý sa volá Arka tribe, kmeň Arka.
The Aka people are spread from the top of Thailand into Myanmar and into China and Laos.
Ja. Takže títo Arkovci, alebo kmeň Arka sa tiahne severom Thajska cez Myanmar, Barmu, Laos až do Číny.
And they make these things.
A oni toto robia takéto veci.
And I met the man. He was a missionary there with them for 30 years.
Takže stretol som tam jedného pána, ktorý tam je misionárom už 30 rokov.
He learned their language.
Naučil sa ich jazyk.
And at the time it was not written down.
Ešte keď nebol napísaný.
And so he wrote it.
Takže on spravil písmenka, napísal.
Meaning he made letters.
Abecedu.
And translated the Bible into Aka.
A preložil Bibliu do tohto Arka jazyka.
And so this tribe is known for this.
Takže tento kmeň je zaujímavý taký týmito kolotočmi, alebo čo to je?
So it's super fun.
Je to veľká zábava.
But then so there were fun, sweet times, but then very hard times.
Takže tam boli veľmi zábavné a sladké momenty, ale potom mali tam nejaké ťažké obdobia.
The three things that were really hard were spiritual warfare.
Takže tri veci, ktoré boli veľmi ťažké, bol duchovný boj.
We had very little community.
Mali sme veľmi malú komunitu.
And then just adjusting to life.
A potom prispôsobujúť sa životu.
In the first 2 years, we had a lot of stitches in our family.
Prvé 2 roky sme mali veľa stehov v našej rodine.
This is Bree.
Toto je Bree.
She hit the bed. She hit her head on the bed.
Aha, sa buchla o postel.
My son, James,
a môj syn James
had maybe 12 or 13 sets of stitches.
Mal asi 12 alebo 13 takýchto setov, jak sa to povie? No, 12 alebo 13 krát bol zašívaný, hej.
I didn't really understand what spiritual warfare was.
Nerozumel som veľmi, že čo je duchovný boj.
Like coming from America or here.
Keď som prišiel z Ameriky, alebo keď som bol tu na Slovensku.
But Asia, they are scared of the spirits, like evil spirits.
Ale v Ázii oni sa tam boja zlých duchov.
And they have these little houses in their front yard.
Majú také malé domčeky v svojej predzáhradke, také jak psie budy.
And they put like Coca-Cola and bananas to try to make the spirits happy with them.
Takže oni tam dávajú nejaké fajnotky, hej, ako Coca-Colu a banány, aby urobili tých zlých duchov šťastnými.
It sounds funny, but they lived in fear.
Znie to ako smiešne, ale žijú v strachu.
And so there's just a lot of spiritual like evilness.
Je tam veľmi veľa toho duchovného zla.
And so like things happened, like our basement was infected with ticks.
Aha, stávali sa nám také veci, že naša pivnica bola infikovaná kliešťami.
I broke my toe, I wrecked my boss's motorcycle.
You broke your
toe?
Palec, že si zlomil si palec and what else?
I wrecked my boss's motorcycle.
Hej, mal haváriu na motocykle od kamaráta, čo mal požičané.
Dara had a bad bicycle wreck and hurt her teeth.
Takže Dara mala búračku na bicykli a si zlomila zub.
James was in the hospital for 6 days with like pneumonia and something else.
Aha, že James bol v nemocnici asi 6 dní. Neviem, čo je to. Pneumonia. Zapapľúc, hej?
And so one time James had stitches.
Keď mal raz James tieto stehy
in his chin
na brade.
And we had so many stitches, I never went back to the doctor to take them out. I took them out.
Že tak často sme mali tie stehy, že už som ani nechodil k doktorom, aby ich vyberal, ale ja som ich vyberal.
Because it just happened so often.
Dialo sa to veľmi často.
And so we got them out, and then 2 days later, he hit his chin again.
Že vybrali ich a o 2 dní znova si buchol bradu.
And cut it again, but different place on his chin.
Zase si to rozťal, ale na inej časti brady.
And it was just like one hard thing after the next.
Bolo to jedna ťažká vec za ďalšou ťažkou.
And this is a picture of us after 2 years.
Toto je náš obrázok nás po 2 rokoch.
And so God did give us community, but it took a while.
Boh nám nakoniec dal komunitu, ale chvíľu to trvalo.
We just really needed to rely on him in so many areas.
Úplne sme sa museli na neho spoľahnúť vo viacerých oblastiach.
And it just takes time to learn a new culture.
Takže trvá to čas naučiť sa novú kultúru.
So anytime I read the Bible and I see Abraham moving to a new culture or someone else,
tak stále, keď teraz čítam Bibliu a vidím, že Abraham napríklad sa sťahoval do nejakej inej kultúry alebo niekto iný,
like I really feel for him.
Takže veľmi s ním súcitím.
Because so one story, I remember being at church one morning.
Napríklad jeden taký príbeh, že pamätám si, keď som bol jedno ráno v zbore.
And I was trying to make friends.
A snažil som sa nájsť nejakých kamarátov.
We had an English speaking church there.
A mali sme tam taký anglický hovoriaci zbor.
And I asked him what they did this weekend.
A spýtal som sa ich, že čo robili tento víkend.
And he said not much because we are deworming.
A on povedal, že veľmi veľa toho sme neurobili, lebo sme sa chladili.
And I was like, what? What's that?
Čo to je?
Červený.
Čo sa? Ja, deworming, že warm, akože teplo. Odčervovali, warm. Okay, že sa odčervovali.
And I thought like, what are you deworming?
A že čo ste sa odčervovali?
And he looked at like, I was kind of silly. He's like, you should deworm you and your children once every 6 months.
On pozeral na čo nechápe, že každý 6 mesiacov by si sa mal ty aj tvoje deti odčervovať.
And it was hard for me to understand. Like I had never heard of people getting worms.
Takže pre mňa to bolo čudné pochopiť, lebo nikdy som nepočul o tom, že by ľudia mali nejaké červíky.
But it happens often there.
Ale tam sa to stáva často.
And it was just one more thing. Okay, now I need to go home and learn about this.
Okay, toto je nejaká nová vec, tak musím ísť domov a naučiť sa. Takže tak.
So the biggest thing we learned this is the last thing I'll share. The biggest thing we learned in Thailand was how important community is.
Takže jedna veľká vec, ktorú sme sa naučili v Thajsku, je, že aká je dôležitá komunita.
God completely made us for community.
Boh nás stvoril pre spoločenstvo, pre komunitu.
He made us to have friends.
Stvoril nás, aby sme mali priateľov.
Maybe you can think back when you became a believer.
Možno môžete pospomínať naspäť, predtým, ako ste sa stali veriacim.
How your relationships changed.
Ako sa zmenili potom vaše vzťahy.
I remember my disciple and my relationship changing with him.
Pamätám si, ako sa zmenil vzťah môjho učeníka, keď som ho učeníkoval.
I felt a safety with him and with that community.
Cítil som sa... So you discipled him?
No, he discipled me.
Okay. Takže ako sa zmenil vzťah, keď jeho učeníkoval jeho akože nejaký priateľ a ako sa zmenil Jeremyho vzťah k nemu, že sa cítil sa bezpečne v tom spoločenstve.
I felt like he knew me better than anyone.
Cítil som, že ma pozná lepšie ako hocikto iný.
And as I have walked with God and made new friends,
a ako som tak kráčal s Bohom a spoznal som nových priateľov,
I see this theme of God teaching me how important community is.
A videl som túto hlavnú tému, že ako ma učí, že aké je dôležité spoločenstvo.
And how deep relationships can go.
A ako hlboko môžu tieto vzťahy ísť.
So leaving Thailand for us was very hard.
Takže keď sme teraz odchádzali z Thajska, bolo to pre nás veľmi ťažké.
Because we had really, really good friends.
Pretože sme tam mali veľmi, veľmi dobrých priateľov.
Our kids had friends and we had friends.
Naše deti mali priateľov, my sme mali priateľov.
I had a men's group that we would meet once a week.
Mali sme takú mužskú skupinku, kde sme sa stretávali každý týždeň.
And we were like completely open with our faults and our sins.
A boli sme úplne otvorení s našimi pádmi, s našimi hriechmi.
It was a wonderful place that was very safe.
Bolo to úžasné miesto, kde bolo veľmi bezpečné.
I could call those guys and there was no judgment but just compassion.
Mohol som týmto chlapcom zavolať a nebolo tam žiadne odsúdenie, ale bolo tam taký súcit.
And I miss them very much.
Veľmi mi chýbajú.
But I know God will give me new relationships here.
A viem, že Boh mi dá nové vzťahy tu.
Also, we had a small group there.
Takže sme to mali takú malú skupinku.
And it was a different kind of small group.
Bolo to iný typ skupinky pre mňa.
We didn't really study the Bible too much in this group.
Na tej skupinke sme až tak veľmi neštudovali Bibliu.
It was from the church that we were with.
Bola to skupinka zo zboru, v ktorom sme boli.
And we did look at scripture, but it wasn't like a Bible study.
Akože čítali sme si tam z Biblie, ale nebolo to štúdium Biblie.
But we learned each other's stories.
Učili sme sa, alebo hovorili sme si naše príbehy.
And we would talk about our sin.
Rozprávali sme sa o našich hriechoch, našich zlyhaniach.
And encourage each other.
Povzbudzovali sme sa.
And again, it was a very safe, open group to share with.
Opäť to bola veľmi bezpečná, taká otvorená skupinka, aby sme na zdieľanie.
It's hard to explain what this kind of group is like.
Je ťažko vysvetliť, že ako to je v takej skupinke.
Because until you experience a really safe group like this, you cannot understand it.
Pretože dokiaľ nezažijete takúto bezpečnú otvorenú skupinku, tak tomu možno nepochopíte, neporozumiete.
But it is completely from God and very sweet.
Je to úplne od Boha a je to veľmi milé.
God likes to bless us with sweet things like this.
Boh nás chce požehnávať takýmito milými vecami ako táto skupinka. Alebo tieto vzťahy.
And God has been very faithful with Dara and I to teach us.
Boh k nám bol veľmi verný, aby nás vyučoval, Dare a Jeremimu.
So I think I will close with this.
Takže týmto by som asi ukončil.
I really encourage you to dig deep into relationships that are around you.
Takže vás pozbudzujem k tomu, aby ste kopali hlbšie vo vzťahoch, ktoré máte okolo seba.
And be really open to hear from God.
Aby ste boli veľmi otvorení tomu, čo Boh chce k vám hovoriť.
For example, to ask him, like, I want to hear what you want me to do today.
Napríklad spýtať sa ho, že chcem počuť, Bože, že čo chceš pre mňa, aby som robil tento deň.
To tell him that you value his truth and you want him to teach you truth.
Že povedať mu, že si vážite, alebo že si ctíte, ceníte jeho pravdu a chcete, aby vás naučil pravde.
Because I see God through my Christian walk opening the Bible, his truth up to me.
Lebo za svoj kresťanský život, keď si čítam Bibliu, tak vidím, ako Boh zjavuje pravdu.
And again, it's very sweet.
A je to tiež veľmi milé.
And it's not from me.
A nie je to zo mňa.
It's not like something I feel like I have anything to do with other than being open.
Takže vidím, že to nemá nič spoločné so mnou, len že mám byť tomu otvorený. Že nevychádza to zo mňa.
So I will finish with that, and I thank you for listening to my story.
Takže chcem by som týmto ukončiť a ďakujem, že ste počúvali môj príbeh.
Like učím sa po slovensky, ale keď máte otázky potom, môžeš skús opýtať mňa, or with me, or, but so, ďakujeme.
Ide ti to dobre. Hej.